I grew up on Old MacDonald's farm because we had chickens and pigs and we milked cows and a big garden and grain farmed and cattle. When we all left home, I've got 3 siblings, so did all of the other animals. I think I can draw a correlation to the cheap, AKA free labor that left. I grew up in agriculture and on the farm, and there's a couple moments that stick out for me. One of them was almost the catalyst to choosing ag economics. My dad was shipping a grain car of flax. And he said that there was a fire in France or somewhere in Europe, and the price of flax went up. I remember being a little bit mind blown that what happened so far away really impacted what was happening on our farm. So that kind of drew me into the world of ag economics. And then I realized, oh man, there's a lot of graphs in here and you really got to know a lot of things. So I did complete my degree, then went on a bit of an adventure and spent some time in Australia, worked with a few crop production companies, then landed in Uganda for 2 years. That's really where I came face to face with food insecurity for the first time and realized the importance of food and farming. Coming back to Saskatchewan, I also worked on an Indigenous reserve. There are some parallels with some of the communities in Uganda that I worked with, and fell into this job, which was able to blend where I think my heart was in education and where my passion was in agriculture. And I've been here for a really long time. In the time I've been here, I have seen the interest, not just from teachers, but from society in general around how our food is grown. Everybody wants to do the right thing when it comes to food, and there's so much noise out there. With the rise of Google, there's an abundance of information. Information is not the problem, but knowing how to sift through this information and knowing what's credible and having experiences to draw on, you can say, wait a minute, I'm going to challenge what I'm seeing in the social media post or on TV because I've had other experiences. That really drives me to break some of the myths and misconceptions about agriculture. We're working in an industry where there's a growing labor shortage and farms are also getting bigger. The amount of people involved in those farms being successful is actually growing. So combined, there's this incredible opportunity to inspire the next generation to be part of the agriculture industry.
What is food insecurity?
There's the UN definition of food insecurity, but really it's about people not having access to affordable, nutritious, culturally relevant food. That cultural relevance is really important, right? If we got a whole dump of plantain here, I would have no idea how to cook it. Even if I was starving, I would not know how to cook it, right? For people, many places in the world and here in our province and in our communities, there are people who don't have access to affordable, nutritious, safe food. And on the other side, you have farmers who are growing it all.
What perspective did you gain by going around the world? And how do you think we could gain more perspective here?
How can we gain more perspective here? It's about being open to having conversations with people who have had these experiences or are in different situations. Often we tend to have conversations in echo chambers and we don't get outside of that. Be willing to break that a little bit and being willing to listen and not immediately having a judgment on why something is the way it is, to learn a little bit more. You can read and hear that food bank usage is going up, but how many of us stop to think, who might those people using the food banks be and why might they be there? So that's I think the easiest, being open to and having conversations not with people who think like you. You're not going to be challenged if your conversation stays in an echo chamber, which we in ag really like to do.
It's true. Well, people like to form groups with like-minded people. And how can we have functional, productive conversations with folks that might have a different perspective? Could be geographical, could be cultural, could be political, could be financial. I think being open is part of the key. What do you think is important to understand about the global situation with agriculture today? What comes to mind when you think about global concerns for the average producer here in Western Canada?
Yeah, we operate in a global market, right? And when policies are being put into place in other countries with respect to some of the technologies that we find very valuable on our farm, whether you're going to take something like Roundup and the banned use of Roundup, that directly impacts farmers here in Western Canada. When you look at this situation globally of unrest or war that's directly impacting agriculture. Take the situation in Ukraine and in Russia and the corridor for wheat being closed. So we are in this global marketplace. China, the situation right now, I don't know where that's going to go with respect to canola and the pulses. Things that are happening globally are very important for the markets that we go into. What's happening provincially and nationally with our society is equally important in a different way, because that's giving us either the ability to farm the way farmers want to farm, or restrictions being put into place because people are making decisions that really aren't rooted in science or fact, but a lot more in emotion and hypotheticals.
There's a lot of misinformation out there that folks are making decisions based upon, and I'm sure that's part of what AITC is doing.